Welcome into another episode of Betting the Pitch. This is Betting the Pitch number 215 with your host, the real _ G Warner, on Twitter, Instagram, Patreon, wherever you can find me. I have the same silly handle. We're going to go through the opening weekend of the European soccer schedule, or at least the top 5 European soccer leagues. We do have English Premier League starting on Friday, La Liga starting, I believe, on Friday as well. Same for Ligue 1 in France. And then there's also a DFB Pokal or a German Super Cup from the Bundesliga on Saturday, I believe. So we're going to go through, find some ultimate best bets from each of those leagues, get you out of here with one final ultimate best bet, which will be on some social media channels. I recommend checking those out. Instagram, I don't think I'm getting back on TikTok ever, so that's probably ship has sailed. But let's get into it. And before I start, I want to thank everyone who's supporting wherever you're doing it. If you're listening on an Apple Podcast or Spotify, please leave a 5-star review. It means a lot for the ranking system, and I will check back in on those comments. And if there's something good in there or bad, whatever, happy to bring it up to make, I guess, give you guys some incentive to write something on there. If you haven't checked out patreon.com, I suggest, or my Patreon account, I highly recommend checking it out. Patreon.com, that's real _ G Warner. You can get direct access to me, my leans across all sports that I'm handicapping, and you can interact with me throughout the day. As I'm posting write-ups for the baseball games I'm looking at, for example, for today, put that out probably an hour or so before the game ended up first pitch. So you knew what I was doing before I ended up coming out on Twitter or anything like that. Turn on your notifications, you get up to the second updates. As soon as I lock something in, I try to make a note so everyone can see it. And my patrons will tell you that the price is very reasonable, especially if you subscribe to me on other platforms. So check that out. And I guess we'll get into it. All lines quoted in this podcast are courtesy of betonline.ag. My favorite place to get my bets down early. Reduced juices offered on almost every game you want to bet right up until game time. Please follow the link found in the podcast description to fund your account and use the promo code GW50 to receive 50% match bonus up to $1,000. So we'll start in the Premier League. I'm going to find some way to note what my ultimate best bets are. But we have also, if you're an FBL player, I'll probably get into that a little bit, just as I do fantasy baseball on the baseball podcast that I record. So hopefully that's not too annoying. If it is, let me know in the comments, leave a 5-star review and tell me you don't care. But I think some people do. And we'll start with Burnley, who have come back into the Premier League after 1 year absence. They changed managers, completely changed their style, and now are attacking front-footed side under former Manchester City star captain Vincent Kompany. And guess who they host in the opener? It's almost like someone was thinking about this and tried to put that in place. Burnley hosts Manchester City, the treble winners, who had just come off a Community Shield loss after conceding a late goal on a really tough deflection and then losing in penalty kicks. But Manchester City didn't really take that match very seriously, it didn't seem to me. I would not downgrade them too much, though they're supposedly a couple weeks behind where Arsenal were in their preparation for the season. That happens, I guess, when Jack Grealish is partying literally the entire summer after winning the Champions League, the English Premier League, and one of the cups. So pretty good run. We'll see about the health of Kevin De Bruyne. I'm not sure about that, but we'll get into the number here. Burnley, a 1.5 goal underdog, and with almost all the juice right now on Manchester City, which should be expected. Certainly the sports books are not going to let people bet Manchester City for cheap because they know they're the best team in the world. Over under is 3, juice the under, all the juice on the under right now, actually. And when I go through kind of where these numbers have moved, not much since I initially was tracking them. Looks like there's been a little bit of a drop in the total that went from 3, very juice the under, to 2 3/4 and came back up to 3. So I guess that drop has reversed, but pretty much similar numbers from what I was looking at initially. And if you're going to back Burnley here, I'm wishing you luck. I think it's going to be a really tough situation for them because they want to play aggressive front-footed football. I don't think that they want to step back, especially for a home match, even though it's against the best team in the world. I think they're going to play aggressively. And honestly, I feel like my biggest interest is to over 3 goals in this one. I'm not really an over player. If anyone listens to any of the podcasts I do, unders and underdogs. Generally, soccer is pretty strictly underdogs as well. You might see a few favorites from me on baseball diamond or in college basketball or maybe the NFL and other sports of that nature, but very few in soccer, especially because there's no overtime to bail you out late, which is another reason why I love betting football or soccer in this case, because you just got to worry about 90 minutes. Then again, in most regular season matches, you won't see much there. So not a lot of interest for me in this opener. Probably see a lot of goals. Probably want to get as many FPL assets for Manchester City in your squad, and then maybe decide what to do with Burnley after this one. I can't imagine they'll play that defensively, though it probably would be the more pragmatic approach. I think they're really going to try to get 3 points at home and take the risk and see what happens. Moving to Saturday, the early match, Arsenal hosting Nottingham Forest, coming off their Community Shield victory, though really didn't do anything for 97 or so minutes, but there's so many extra minutes of stoppage time, which I also want to recommend that people take that in consideration if you're playing unders and things of that nature, because unfortunately it's going to happen a lot, and there's going to be a lot of late goals because that's when teams fall apart in 2 minutes of stoppage time, never mind 8, 10, or whatever we're going to see here. Arsenal a 2-goal favor right now to Nottingham Forest, over under 3.25. More juice on Arsenal at home and also to the over. Pretty high total. Arsenal were, I think, a lot better at defending at home last season, but don't quote me on that because it's been a little while since I've been looking at the table and things of that nature. But I think with Nottingham Forest, it's going to be a big test for them after staying up last season, really because of how well they played at home. And you can see from this number at 2-goal underdog on the road in the opener that there's not a lot of expectations. I think the moves Arsenal made in the offseason to really just add as many attacking players as possible is going to be in full force here. And Nottingham Forest are going to be under cannon fire the whole match. That doesn't make me love +2, though it's a gigantic number. Obviously, it also makes me feel like if you like Nottingham Forest, you probably want to play under 3.25. I don't think I like that enough right now. So now we move into the big, massive games on Saturday. Everton hosts Fulham. Currently, Everton a 1/4 goal favorite with a little bit more juice. Over unders 2.5, juice the under. Everton are a really bad team. I don't think that anything has changed in Sean Dyche, their manager's idea, since he came in and was basically retained for keeping and somehow keeping the team up in, I think, 17th place, barely by the skin of their teeth. I am not at all a believer in Everton's ability to score. I'm not really a huge fan of their defense either. My biggest interest really is on the Fulham side. They're getting a 1/4 goal. They've had a lot of trauma in their club. I don't know what the heck's going on with Mitrovic, their striker, who when he got hurt last year, their offense got way worse. But it seems like he didn't get a move to Saudi Arabia like he wanted to. It seemed like he had threatened not to play and kind of hold out for Fulham. But as far as I know, he's going to be in that lineup, and also is one of those reasons why I wait to see lineups to see how these things end up working out. Over under 2.5. I would expect that Everton are going to play a defensive brand of football at home because that's where Dyche has played really every time I've seen him manage in the Premier League. I shouldn't expect that to change. I think that plays into the underdog here and also the under, which there might be, you could argue, a little more value in under 2.5 if you don't really think that Fulham are likely to score. Without Mitrovic, I would say they probably are not likely to score, but that's probably my biggest interest at this moment in this matchup. In terms of where the lines have gone from the start, not really much movement, maybe a little bit more on the over than the under here, which makes me feel like it's a good idea to wait a little bit longer. Bournemouth then hosts West Ham in a matchup that I just wish Bournemouth had maintained their underdog status. They have now climbed basically to pick 'em, almost split juice both ways. West Ham a little bit more juice. Over under is 2.5, juice to the over. West Ham are a team that sold Declan Rice. That's a huge adjustment for them to come back from, and I'm not a believer in them at all. I also feel like they have splashed the money that they received in a lot of different directions, and I'm not sure that Harry Maguire signing, nor James Ward-Prowse, who doesn't seem like he's going to be available for this matchup because he's playing his last match potentially for Southampton in the championship before he moves. At least that seems to be the rumor for now. I don't really know what to say about Bournemouth because they are in a very big transitional period under a new manager, Andoni Iraola, who's a good manager that came over from Rayo Vallecano in La Liga. One of my favorite bets in La Liga, but I'm not really sure what he's going to do with this Bournemouth side because he doesn't really seem to have the same type of structure in his team like he did at Rayo in a suburb of Madrid. He had really great wing attackers and fullbacks that would play up the pitch. West Ham on the road as a favorite is something I like to bet against because I don't trust them to score at all, and that by default they need to score. I'm waiting to see if this number climbs. I'm also interested in under 2.5 because I think West Ham, as a slight favorite, are likely going to play a defensive brand and are going to try to score on set pieces and really going to try to muck this game up as much as possible in pure David Moyes I guess, strategic heaven. I'm not a believer in him. I'm looking to bet against them as much as possible. So I think under 2.5 is my biggest interest here. I don't know that necessarily Iraola was a under manager or one that I really want to back a ton of unders with at Rayo, but really I like backing him as an underdog because I felt like they could score a lot. But there's some good, I guess, test here to see what happens. I think it might be a watch and see, at least without Bournemouth looking like an underdog, considering they opened as a pick 'em, but with a lot of juice on the West Ham side, climbed to Bournemouth a quarter goal favorite at one point. Now they're back to about the high point of where Bournemouth have been priced, consistently taking money since it feels like the beginning. Next, I'll move to Brighton hosting Luton Town. Luton Town, a recent addition to the Premier League, one in the playoff without scoring a goal, one in the playoff shootout, I believe, to get in from Wembley Stadium. Brighton, with a lot of questions about how they're going to handle two circuits this year as they're playing in Europe as well as the Premier League, and really trying to follow up with their great performance from last season. Brighton are a 1.5 goal favorite. Juice is split. Over under is 3. Juice pretty heavily to the under. All the juice on the under. Maybe it falls to 2 3/4. If you're an under player, I suggest locking in under 3 before letting it drop to 2 3/4. But that is, I guess, up to you and your juice tolerance. Luton Town are the worst or lowest valued squad in the Premier League. I'm not a believer in them, and I don't really want to trust them at all in any sort of under or underdog fashion until they prove a little bit to me. Sheffield United then host Crystal Palace. Sheffield, one of the teams that came up, I believe, in the second position behind Burnley in the championship last year. No stranger to the Premier League, been around and been up fairly recently. Currently a quarter goal underdog to Palace with all the juice right now. Over under is 2 1/4 with split juice both ways. Not a lot of expectations for goals to be scored in this one, to say the least, and really not a lot from me either. Crystal Palace somehow retained a 70-plus-year-old manager and who really came in to after, I guess, Patrick Vieira left, whatever those circumstances were, and came in Roy Hodgson, and all of a sudden a defensive manager that really just wants to kill a game scored a ton of goals, which is pretty hard to explain, pretty hard to really see happening again also. So I'm very interested in Sheffield United getting that quarter of a goal at home. Should be a pretty big environment for them. Should get a lot of, I think, crowd support, and it should be a pretty big day. And we've seen some of these newly promoteds on the opening day at home play really well. I think it's a tough spot for Crystal Palace to go into, especially as a road favorite with their talisman gone and Wilfried Zaha, I think, to Saudi Arabia or Galatasaray or somewhere. He went east. I know that. And then just a team that I didn't really expect to score many goals. I think they had enough problems defensively in the past as well, that I'm pretty sweet on Sheffield United. And I like under 2 1/4 because I don't really believe in the road favorite to score. And those two things are correlated, under and underdog, and especially when it's a home underdog involved. Next, I'll move to Newcastle, Aston Villa, hosting Aston Villa in the nightcap on Saturday. Newcastle currently a 3/4 goal favorite. Over under is 2 3/4. Juice the under. All the juice there. A lot more juice on the Villa side right now. In terms of where this started, Aston Villa has always been a 3/4 goal underdog from what I've seen. It hasn't really moved a lot lately. And I guess from where I am right now, there hasn't been much movement. And Aston Villa, to me, are a team I want to back this year. I am a little bit concerned about them playing in Europe, but I trust their management structure. Unai Emery, I think, is a great manager. Has shown he's a great defender. He can go on the road and really cause problems for big home favorites. Newcastle are one of those, and I'm not sure that they are a team I trust to score goals at all. Good defense, certainly for Newcastle, but even then, that feels a little bit like maybe it wasn't as deserved, certainly wasn't as good later in the year. Yes, you could argue they were taking big leads, and then it's hard to keep a clean sheet when you're up 3-0 all the time. But I'm pretty interested in Aston Villa on the side. I would love to see them get to a full goal underdog. I don't think that'll happen. But certainly something to look into, and I'll also be looking to see that over under total goals number, if that potentially climbs to 3 as well, because I don't think there's a lot of goals here. I think I prefer Aston Villa more than I like the under, but we'll see what happens with movement on that one Saturday night. Moving to Sunday, Brentford hosts Tottenham in a big matchup. I've already in the futures episode, if you haven't watched that one yet, scroll back a couple in the Rolodex on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, it's on YouTube, all that sort of stuff. Even have some short reels if they're not banned in your country, with kind of future plays. And Brentford were mine. But I'm really interested in Brentford. They're, to me, a buy low candidate because they played really well last year, have lost their striker, who was very important, is definitely a significant loss, but they lost him to a gambling suspension and should get him back second half. It doesn't affect them today, but we got Tottenham with rumors of Harry Kane leaving. It doesn't seem like he's going to, but a new manager in Andre Postecoglou, who's I didn't probably pronounce that right, but I'll have to practice. Who's just playing aggressively as possible and trying to score a ton of goals. That does not make me like this over-under of 2 3/4, juice pretty heavily to the over. That's probably the way I lean, but as I said, I'm not really an over player. And Brentford right now at a pick'em, with all the juice on Tottenham right now, potentially climbing to a quarter of a goal before this kicks off, but I'm not even sure. There was a time when Brentford were a quarter goal underdog, and that clearly without any knowledge on the Harry Kane situation, as it's still pending. But clearly some money has come in on Brentford, despite Tottenham scoring a ton of goals and looking really sharp offensively, or at least getting a ton of shots on target or on goal, shot attempts in their preseason campaign. I'm with the market here. I like that Brentford's been getting respect. That's the side I want here at a pick'em. I don't think it's enough there, and certainly not playing an under on a total when I don't trust one of the managers at all to try to defend it whatsoever. And makes sense because Tottenham's defense is not very good. Chelsea then hosts Liverpool, last one on Sunday. Chelsea currently a quarter goal underdog at home with all the juice. Over unders 2 3/4, juice the over. Chelsea have, they started as a pick'em, all the juice on Liverpool, have climbed to a quarter goal underdog. I'm not a believer in Chelsea whatsoever. I don't think that they're a good team. They're going to have to prove it to me, really, for me to get involved with them. And I think it's going to be one of those scenarios where I need to see it happen before I'm going to believe it. So until that happens, I'm not backing them as a home underdog, even though I'm not really a big believer in Liverpool. I know that they're going to smash some really poor teams because they're going to score a ton of goals, but they're going to leave themselves wide open. I think they're going to play the same way they played towards the end of last year, where they got a lot of points. They only really signed attacking players, it felt. So I'm not really a believer. I can't really trust Chelsea to score goals, so I don't really want to play over here. So really not a lot for me to do on that Sunday nightcap in England. And then last but not least, we have Monday match, Manchester United hosting Wolves. A lot of weird stuff going on in this one. Lots of drama, plenty, with Julian Lopetegui not even coaching a match this year after pretty much rescuing him. I think he took over when Wolverhampton were bottom of the English Premier League. And Manchester United have a lot of good things have happened for him, a lot of good signings. We'll see about Højlund, who seems to be injured. But ultimately, I don't think is a huge expectation to be a difference maker early in the season. Manchester United currently a 1.5 goal favorite at home. Over under is 3, juiced to the under, split juice both ways on the point spread. I don't know what to do with Wolves. I don't trust them as a home favorite, which is why I'm looking to go against them, but we don't have that here clearly. And I don't really trust them in a defensive mode against Manchester United, who should have a ton of the ball and should make it really hard on the Wolves to score as well. So I'm not really a believer. I think this is going to be a long season for Wolves. And if I was recording a futures episode today, I think I might look at their relegation odds, because they have done nothing with their team from what I've seen, unless I missed a huge onslaught of signings lately. But I feel like that's why they've been struggling so much, is that financially they're not in great shape. So for my best bet, and I'll, of course, repeat these all end of show for ultimate best bet, and then give you that winner, hopefully, as ultimate best bet end of show. I'm going to go with the... I really like Sheffield United at home. So I'll take Sheffield United getting a quarter of a goal at home from Crystal Palace. Now I'll move next to to Spain for La Liga, which also starts on Friday. We have a couple of matches: Almeria hosting Rayo Vallecano, and also Sevilla hosting Valencia, because Sevilla are playing in a Super Cup match for UEFA for winning the Europa League. But we'll start with the early match Friday. Almeria hosts Rayo Vallecano. Currently, Almeria a quarter goal favorite at home. All the juice on Rayo on the road. Over under is 2.25, juiced heavily to the over. I like Rayo Vallecano. I am a believer that not too many of Andoni Iraola's strategies will have left, especially because of how successful Rayo, who were a team that were almost surely going to get relegated after their promotion, after winning the La Liga promotion playoff. And then have done really well. We're flirting with Europe last season. I don't think there's a lot of changes. Yes, they've lost some players, but I feel comfortable with what they've built this year. Almeria on the other side, good home team last year, but had really big defensive problems. I don't expect that to change. They're going to try to outscore Rayo. I don't know necessarily that's a great kind of plan here. It might make sense for an over 2.25 here, a little bit more than under. But I like Rayo getting a quarter of a goal. And it's very juiced at the moment. So we'll see if that sticks around until kickoff at 12:30 Central Time on Friday afternoon. Let's go to the nightcap. Sevilla hosting Valencia. Currently Sevilla a half a goal favorite. Juice to split both ways. Over unders 2.25. Juice to the over. Sevilla are an interesting case. I mean, incredible that they were able to win the Europa League last year, despite fighting relegation almost the entire time, having 3 managers. Started with Lopetegui, who was clearly not who anybody wanted, but ended up being in place, and then left because things were going so poorly. New manager came in, brought in a lot of new talent, spent a lot of money. Things got better, but still didn't really look great there either. And then finally, Jose Luis Mendilibar, who is such an aggressive manager, came in. I'm not a believer in him whatsoever. I'm a seller on Sevilla this season. If you listen to one of my podcasts, or if you're a subscriber on pregame, you saw that I have a futures play involving Sevilla. And I just don't believe in them really at all. So as a half a goal favorite, though, you got to bring up the other side, which is Valencia, who were fighting relegation themselves last season and almost didn't make it out. They are fortunate to be in the league. They've got a lot of financial problems for a formerly gigantic club. And I don't really know what to do with this one. I don't believe in Sevilla. They're better at home, certainly. I think Valencia have a long way to go to show that they're competent. So it's probably one of those that I skip, because I also don't like Sevilla for an under team, because Mendilibar plays such a high line that I think it's too risky. Moving to Saturday, Real Sociedad hosting Girona. Currently Sociedad a 3/4 goal favorite at home with all the juice. Over under is 2.5. Juiced to the under. Sociedad are a team I really like. I think they've done a lot of great building, a lot of continuity. Same manager still around. Emmanuel Alguacil also have a little bit of a soft spot for it, because the first match I saw in Europe, but was a Mallorca match, actually, on a late goal that was scored in stoppage time. Brutal for my Mallorca +1, but I'll leave that to the side. Girona are a team I really like to back later in the season. They also flirted with Europe, despite coming up as a promoted team last season. I think most interested in seeing if this number ends up hitting the +1 that I'm looking for. It's currently a very inexpensive. You're getting odds on 3/4, but I don't think I want that yet. I think I need that one to pop before I get involved. So I'll be looking for it. I mean, I think Sociedad are a good defensive squad, better than you'd think. And I think their offense is probably it's very talented, but it's never really been that efficient. And I think that's going to be their problem here in this opener, as well, as they're getting ready to kind of make things happen as they move into a big season for them in Champions League. But Girona look interesting to me. I don't love the 3/4 right now. We'll wait to see if a 1 pops before kickoff. Moving next to Las Palmas hosting Mallorca. Currently Las Palmas, a newly promoted side from Segunda División. They've not been in La Liga since I've been following it. So it's been a little while. I spent a little bit of money, so that's nice. Nice to see some expenditures, but it's going to be a tough season for them. And luckily they get to start at home, which is nice. But they face a great Mallorca side, which are reeling a little bit from the sale of Lee Kang-in, who has moved on to Paris Saint-Germain. And that's unfortunate for Mallorca, because he was a huge creator on the left wing, especially finding their pirate inside, their big striker, and Vedat Maurici's head, literally just putting balls in the box for him to head in the goal, because he's a giant and is really hard to defend. I don't think Las Palmas have a lot of solutions for that. And so that makes me very interested in Mallorca. Current number, Mallorca are a 1/4 goal underdog on the road with all the juice. The over under is as Michael Harris doesn't make a play. Sorry, I got a bunch of TVs going because there's a bunch of matches on right now, or baseball games, matches, soccer on the brain. Anyway, I like Mallorca getting that quarter of a goal. I'm also interested in Mallorca under 2, but twos, you don't see a lot of twos across Europe, but you do in La Liga, unfortunately. I think that plays into that quarter of a goal being even more valuable for Mallorca. They've been getting a little bit cheaper. I had this number as more expensive earlier in the summer, minus 128 down to minus 124 right now are the Mallorca plus 1/4 side. I think that's my biggest interest here. And I'll next move on to later match on Saturday. It looks like it is the nightcap, and then as Athletic Club Bilbao hosting Real Madrid. And this is lined like a very competitive match. Just saw today that Thibaut Courtois might have torn his ACL. They call it broke his ACL, which looks really weird to me, but some sort of rupture. That's a big deal. It sounds like they're going to bring in De Gea to come right in, which should fit fairly well. And still surprising to me that De Gea hadn't found a job. But regardless, Athletic Club getting a lot of respect, only a quarter goal underdog at home, which is very respectful, though money has certainly been coming in on Real Madrid, as you'd expect throughout the season. Over-unders 2.5, juiced heavily to the over. Athletic Club are a really good defensive side, especially against the bigger clubs at home. I almost like them a little bit more on the road because they get a bigger price tag, but they are an underdog. I would expect them to close a half a goal underdog at home, so draw wins you a bet. Problem is, going against Real Madrid, it's hard to expect Real Madrid not to win a match. So I guess I like the Athletic Club side here, especially because I think there are big questions about Real Madrid when they don't have Karim Benzema in the lineup, and he won't be there at all this year since he's moved on to Saudi Arabia. And I think there are questions about the goalkeeper as well. So Real Madrid, they're favored to win La Liga. I don't really agree with that necessarily. I still think Barcelona are the team to do it, or should be odds-on favorite to me. But or at least the most likely of the teams that are playing. But Real Madrid have gotten a lot of respect from the market. And maybe this is a resurgence, though. To me, it just feels like Champions League is what they're made for, especially under Carlo Ancelotti. Moving to Sunday, with Celta Vigo hosting Osasuna. Currently, Celta a half a goal favorite at home. With all the juice on Osasuna on the road, over under is 2.25, juice to the under very heavily. Osasuna are playing in Europe this year, as far as unless that got struck down last minute, but I think it's still happening. They haven't really done a ton of their club. They don't have a ton of finances, but Celta Vigo have really struggled against relegation for a while now. It's hard for me to believe in Celta Vigo, especially Diogo Aspas, who's now, I think, 36 years old, if not turning 37 this year. And that's a big question for him. Literally, he's too old to even get a berth in the Spanish national team that could not score goals for 3 World Cup cycles, it feels. But I really don't believe in Celta Vigo either. The defensively has always been a problem for them. They wanted to be a really good attacking team, but they don't score enough to really do that. And that's why they seem to always find themselves in the relegation battle. They start seasons better than they finish them, but they usually drift towards the bottom. And I feel like that's someday going to catch up to them. And it could be this season. So I like Osasuna getting that half of a goal. I don't know that I really like an under with Celta Vigo involved because they're not really a defensive-minded team. And I don't expect Osasuna to control the ball and then Celta to really be in defensive mode. I think I like Osasuna getting a half more than anything here. Next, I'll move to Villarreal hosting Real Betis. Big battle towards the top of the table. Villarreal, a 3/4 goal favorite. Real Betis, got a little bit more of the juice right now. Over under is 2 3/4, juice the over. Villarreal, they're going to be a very offensive first front-footed squad. I don't think they have a defense for it. They've sold important defensive players like Pau Torres. And I just don't really believe Villarreal's offensive resurgence that came about when Quique Setien took over. I also don't believe he's a very good manager, formerly of Real Betis, and got him a berth or got him a job at Barcelona, where he was like an auto fade for a long time during the COVID season. I'm just not expecting too much. And so I like the Betis side. They have huge disciplinary problems, unfortunately. And I don't think that's something that gets fixed right away, or seemingly hasn't been fixed at all. I do like Pellegrini, their manager, a lot. And that's the way I lean, hoping that a +1 pops. I doubt that will occur, however. Next, I'll go to Getafe hosting Barcelona. Currently, Getafe a 1-goal underdog at home. With all the juice right now, though it's seemingly getting a little bit cheaper, as surprise, surprise, the world is betting Barcelona. Over under is 2.5, juice the under. Barcelona won the La Liga last season by really scaring their opponents into playing defense the whole time. The Barcelona offense was not great. but was serviceable and scored enough when they were keeping so many clean sheets. They were great under team. I like that here. I think that fits with the Getafe style, which is especially at home to try to restrict you as possible and try to win 1-0. I think it also is what they try to do on the road. Pepe Bordalas is still there in his second stint, at least at the club as manager. And I don't really like the Getafe +1 side as much. I think you get a lot more bang for your buck with that under 2.5, even if it falls to 2.25 before kickoff. I don't necessarily think that will happen because Barcelona seems to get a ton of money, and they also, their overs do as well, being the one of the most public and most popular clubs in Europe or the world. Definitely the world, probably the most popular in the world. But I think Getafe, they've shown really who they are defensively. They're really missing Enes Unal, their striker. I don't really see them scoring here. So I like the idea of under 2.5 goals in that Barca match. And then we got 2 matches on Monday before we move to France. And then I think we'll close with the Super Cup in Germany. But we have a Monday match. The early one is Cadiz hosting Alaves. Alaves recently promoted in the relegation playoff thanks to a late penalty that completely switched the team who was getting the cash flow to move up to the top division, to the Primera División. Cadiz currently a quarter goal favorite at home with all the juice. Over under is 2, juiced heavily to the under, or all the juices on the under. Might see this one close below 2. It's been, I guess, gaining more traction to under than to over. I'm not really a believer necessarily in Alaves nor Cadiz. I think Cadiz have shown they can stay in the league. They've been very competitive in the top division. They don't have a lot of resources, but they've been better offensively. They did have one of their good offensive talents, Bongonda, leave in the summer transfer window, unfortunately. So we'll see what they look like. I think I give Alaves a little bit better of a chance. I don't think a quarter is enough for me, as they just seem like a really bad team for a couple seasons, stayed in the league barely, and then I think they were still pretty bad even in their promotion campaign winning the playoff last season. I think under 2 looks really good to me. I wouldn't want to play under 1 3/4. So if you like that, I would play that now. And last but not least, in La Liga, we have Atletico Madrid hosting Granada. Currently, Atleti a 1.5 goal favorite with almost all the juice. Over unders 2 3/4. Juice the over. Granada pretty quickly back to the big time, back to the Primera División. They haven't really showed me too much. I mean, they were such a bad year their last year before they went down, or the season they did go down. They're gonna have a really tough going to Wanda Metropolitano, a really tough place to play. I've been there. It is very loud and very, very, very angry. I had one guy telling me to stop videoing the Liverpool fan section when they scored a goal. I guess I was violating some rules or something like that. But Granada will have a really tough time. Atleti were so good towards the end of the year. I don't really think that they have a great chance to win La Liga, but it wouldn't be unheard of. I think they're the last team that has a chance besides Real Madrid and Barcelona. In terms of the over-under here, I think Granada are going to play a little bit more aggressively, and Atleti really weren't that under team unless they're a big favorite, which they are here. I don't think I want to play an under with Atleti at home unless they're facing a team that's really going to defend them, and I'm not sure about Granada doing that so far. So for ultimate best bet, I'm going to go with Mallorca getting a quarter of a goal on the road at Las Palmas. I just feel like that is kind of where I want to start my season, going against I want to go against the newly promoted sides that are favorites. So we'll now move to Ligue 1, and then we'll get a German Supercopa, and then we'll get out of here, and hopefully I'll be able to make my flight to Boston tonight. So Friday, tomorrow, we have Nice hosting Lille. A really nice start for Liga. Maybe try to get some viewers. Currently, Nice a pick'em. A little bit more juice on Lille on the road, and the over-under is 2.5, juiced a little bit more to the over. So I have some interest in this one because I think there's a lot to say about the off seasons. Nice have spent a ton of money. They've got a lot more money. They've been getting a lot of respect in the marketplace as they've dropped from a quarter goal underdog at home earlier this season. Now are a pick'em. Certainly not the juices on the Lille side on the road, which is a little bit surprising. But I was going to say I did like the Nice side getting a quarter at home, but it's moved quite a bit. I feel like I might have missed that number, being asleep in baseball land for the whole offseason. But from where I am right here, I am I'm interested in Lille. I do like their offensive style. They still have Paulo Fonseca, their manager, formerly of Roma, another Shakhtar Donetsk, I believe. I like both these sides, so I'm very interested to watch this one. Should be a good, entertaining watch as well. Nice, I'm questioning what their offense looks like. I think I trust Lille's a lot more. But I think if Nice move back to a quarter goal underdog, I'd be interested, but it doesn't look like that's very likely, especially after the move this summer. Marseille then hosts Reims in the early one on Saturday. They are in their own qualifying for Champions League stuff. So that's going to be a tough draw on their resources, while there's teams that they're playing are probably only playing one match a week, at least for the foreseeable future, until Marseille are either eliminated or earn a berth to Champions League, as a third place in French Ligue did not get an automatic bid last season. Marseille currently a 3/4 goal favorite to Reims. Stade de Reims over under is 2 3/4, juiced heavily to the under. Marseille are a really good home team, have a huge home crowd, stadium I'm planning to try to attend this fall if I can. If anyone's got hookups there, let me know. But Marseille do not really deliver on high expectations, unfortunately. The expectations might be gigantic. They're supposed to win the league every year, according to their team, but they forget about the Paris Saint-Germain member of the Ligue 1. But Stade Reims have spent some money this year. They had a great run when their manager was appointed last season after looking really bad to start the year. Though we're a great money maker 2 seasons ago, and especially for me, and I really appreciate Oscar Garcia and what he did there, the former Celta de Vigo manager. From a I think I need a +1 to want to get involved with Reims right here. I'm not that down on Marseille just yet. I think the over under at 2 3/4. I am it's hard for me to want to play an under also in Le Stade Velodrome, Orange Velodrome in Marseille. I feel like it's probably something I'm not doing much with until I see Reims get a +1. Next, we move to PSG hosting Lorient in the nightcap on Saturday. PSG currently a 1.5 goal favorite. Most of the juice is on Lorient on the road. Over under is 3 1/4, juiced heavily to the under. All the juice on the under. Look, it might fall back down to 3. So Lorient have consistently been getting more and more money. I think it's based on the likelihood that Kylian Mbappe moves, though it hasn't happened yet. So we'll see when it actually does. My interest here, I love Lorient. I love the way they build their squads. They certainly have sold a ton of talent, so we'll see how quickly they can replace that. But they've been really good at doing that so far, and that's why they've stayed in Liga. I do think it's still a big ask for them to stay within 2 goals of PSG on the road in the Parc des Princes. I think PSG have a lot of talent, clearly, as they always do. Even their backup squad, they think could beat the regulars. The Kang Lee buy from Mallorca was big. They've got a lot of really good players, of course. I think it's gonna be one of those situations where Lorient are going to try to stay in this defensively as long as possible. That is their style, to sit back, counter, and then sit deep as you can and counter attack. I like all those setups for under and for the underdog on the road. It's just a really tough venue, and especially because this number was above 2 at one point this summer. So I feel like getting in at 1.5, you're kind of missing a boat a little bit and losing out on a much better number. Next, I'll move to Sunday with Stade Brestois hosting Racing Club Lens. Currently, Brest a 0.5 goal underdog at home with almost all the juice. Over unders 2.5, juiced all the way to the under. This has moved quite a bit. I feel like some money has come in on Brest recently since I've been watching it. And I think it's for good reason. I don't think Lens have done, I think they've lost a ton, and they don't seem to be as strong. The over under has fallen big time to what seems like a 2 1/4 now to me. But I think I'm very interested in the home underdog and the under. Lens are going to be a front-footed side. They're going to be in Champions League this year. They're working on trying to make their squad as deep as possible. They've lost more than they've gained, to say the least. Seko Fofana leaving. Their striker is also gone to, name is escaping me at the moment, but to RB Leipzig. So that's not good. I think where I want to be with this one is on the home dog. Brest have certainly lost Frank Honorat, which was a big loss, and they're not really a team that scores a ton of goals. It's probably safer to take under 2.5, though Lens will be on the front foot for a lot of this matchup, though I do like the home underdog as well. Now I'll move next to the big Sunday, I guess, trope of games. We have Clermont Foot at home to Monaco. Currently, Clermont a half a goal underdog at home with all the juice. Over-unders 2 3/4, split juice both ways. Monaco not in Europe, so they haven't had a lot of matches to really get themselves going, but also not a lot to get tired or hurt. Which is a good thing for them. And I think this will be a good season for Monaco as they're not balancing European competitions. Clermont Foot have been a team that no one really believed in for a while. I don't think that's changed much, especially because they're not financially in a better situation, it seems, than they have been in the past. Clermont are the side I like as a home dog, but I don't know that I really like that much. New manager for Monaco, Adi Hutter, is a little bit more defensive, I think, than Philippe Clement. But we'll see when he's coaching or managing a much better squad against lower competition throughout the campaign. You could say that about Frankfurt, but I don't know if that was necessarily all the time. As Frankfurt, but a lot of times in that like bottom of the European type of possibilities. I like Clermont as a home dog. I don't know that I like them enough right there. I think I like under 2 3/4, and I would probably urge you to do that if you like Clermont, because there's probably not going to be, Clermont will not be the one scoring a ton of goals if they're going to win this matchup, I don't believe. Next, I'll move to Football Club Nantes hosting Toulouse. Currently, Nantes, a pick 'em with almost all the juice right now at home. Over under is 2.5, juiced pretty heavily to the under. But I guess this is a big test for what these two squads will be. What I'm looking at with Nantes are a team that barely stayed in the league last season. They are here. They are back, and they're going to do their best to try to not fight relegation to the last day like they did, barely stayed in. Whereas Toulouse, the Ligue 2 champions from 2 seasons ago, they were great and ultimately won for the Coupe de France, a huge win for them, and allowed them to compete in the European competitions. I think it's going to be bad for them and might put them in relegation danger for this season, but that's yet to be seen. A lot of teams in France could certainly be relegated this year. But with Nantes as a slight favorite, I'm hoping that they climb to a quarter goal favorite. I don't expect that to happen, though. Until it does, I'm probably not doing much with a side here, though I like Toulouse, especially before the European competitions get underway. Though I do feel like they've lost a lot from their squad, which is especially not good when they're going to be playing in Europe as well. And then in terms of under 2.5, it's hard to expect Nantes to score goals, really. So I'm interested in under 2.5. Toulouse are a team that want to play front-footed football, though. So that doesn't really align very well. It might be one of those matches that I end up skipping. Next, I'll move to Montpellier, hosting Le Havre. I'm going to have to work on that pronunciation, so it doesn't sound like I'm coughing. But Montpellier currently a half a goal favorite at home. Over under is 2.25. Juice the over. Montpellier were great to finish the year last year. Added a defensive manager who did shore up defense, and then their offense has always been good. I don't think a lot's going to change there. I don't really know how Le Havre will perform at the Liga top division level. And so I don't really have much interest in this. I want to watch Le Havre before I get any further. Next, I'll move to Rennes hosting Metz. Currently, Rennes a 1.25 goal favorite, with a little bit more juice at home. Over under is 2 3/4. Pretty juice the under. Metz, another team that just recently promoted, had been really aggressive attacking style in Liga previously or in the season that went down before that. Rennes are a really good goal scoring team, and we're so good at home last year. We're really bad on the road. I imagine that's something that they're going to keep in mind and try to improve for this season. We'll see if that ends up occurring. I think Rennes, they're basically on squad values on transfer market. It was very, very bullish on Rennes and what they've done with their squad. It sounds like they're selling Doku very soon, potentially to Manchester City. So that probably will mean he might not be in the lineup here. But Rennes have a lot of depth, have a lot of talent coming in, a lot of talent growing, it seems, and they know who to buy, all that sort of stuff. This is a really tough spot for Metz to start. I think I like over, if anything, in this matchup, which probably has made everyone listening to this shocked. Looks like the last one now on Sunday night in France is Strasbourg hosting Lyon. Currently, Strasbourg a pick'em at home with all the little bit more juice on Lyon on the road. Over under is 2 3/4, juice the over. And this is a pretty significant number considering where Strasbourg were rated last season. And actually, it seems like this was split both ways. So there's been a little money coming in on Lyon. I think I agree with that. Strasbourg spent a lot of money, but I'm not really sure I'm a believer in who they are or who they're trying to be. I think they're like basically a AAA affiliate, if you know baseball in America, of the Chelsea ownership group. It seems like a lot of players will be there. getting their seasoning to then move over to Chelsea. And I'm sure that's where a lot of their cash will come from and why they're getting a lot of respect here. Lyon are a lot better. They've got a much better academy, history, all that sort of stuff. I'm hoping that they become an underdog. That doesn't look likely here. In terms of over under, Lyon are a tough team to play unders with because they've got so much young attacking talent and less defensive talent. I think Strasbourg would have been interesting to me as an underdog at home as well. Pretty much any team being an underdog here, which is probably why it's pick 'em. There's not a lot for me to do in this one, and I'm gonna have to come up with my ultimate best bet now, which I really think it's kind of a similar theme that I'm going with on this podcast or this episode, was that I'm trying to go against the newly promoted sides. Don't really have that option here in Liga, unfortunately. For my ultimate best bet, I'm going to go with Stade Brestois under 2.5 goals to Racing Club Lens. I just don't think Lens are really in store to be the same team they were last year. And so now I'm going to move over to the, if I can find it, the Supercopa in Germany, and then we will get ultimate best bet and hopefully get the heck out of here. Okay, so the German Super Cup, we have Bayern München hosting Leipzig. I don't know, where is this match being played? That would be nice to know. It is being played at Allianz Arena at home for Bayern, of course. I guess it makes sense to do it that way. But so for this one, currently, and I'll give you where the number was previously as well. Currently, at Bayern München, a 1-goal favorite at home. The over/under is 3. Juice is fairly even, but a little bit more on the Leipzig side, and then the over/under is 3, juice to the over. I don't know what is going on here. Okay, but so it looks like Leipzig had been a much bigger or had much more juice on their side for +1. That has come down since. I think probably because of the news of Bayern München's goalkeeper having a big problem. They sold Jan Sommer, I believe. And then it doesn't seem like Manuel Neuer has been playing very well, healing as well from his broken leg and his silly skiing incident in the middle of last season, which really put Bayern in a big problematic position and almost cost them the Meisterschale, but ultimately, I guess you could say, didn't. And Dortmund really don't look like a team that'll ever going to win it. But over/under of 3, very juicy the over. That's been climbing, and I feel like it kind of speaks to the same sort of thing there. But I'm interested in Leipzig. I feel like they have a chance to win this Bundesliga. I'm bullish on them. They've certainly sold a lot, with Vardiol especially leaving to Manchester City recently. That was disappointing, especially because like all the brass or leadership at Leipzig were saying it wasn't going to happen. I think my biggest interest here is in Leipzig. I'm a little bit concerned about them going on the road to Bayern, but I'm not really as concerned about this Bayern club. I don't think they're as dominant or as good as they have been in the past. So that certainly is something I'm going to be looking into and potentially trying to exploit. But we'll see what happens with that, I guess, moving forward. And I'll make Leipzig +1 my best bet from the Bundesliga for this episode. So now you've been with us for what feels like forever. I'm sure time's flied. You've had so much fun. 47 minutes. It is time for the ultimate best bet. And before we get into that, if you're on Spotify, please hit subscribe. If you're on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, please leave a 5-star review. If I didn't say that, if you're on YouTube, you should subscribe. Actually, subscribe everywhere. That'd be nice. Feel free to slide into DMs. If you're on Patreon or Twitter or Instagram, slide in. I'll reply as soon as I see it, most likely. I am traveling tonight on a plane, but hopefully I'll have service, so maybe I'll be able to do that there. Other than that, just trying to grow this as much as possible. Got any questions, comments, feedback, things you like, things you don't like, write something mean in the 5-star review category. I'm happy to respond to that as well. Hoping for this another great season. Was well over 500 last year, but hoping for another bigger year and to be again more conscious of the juice that's unfortunately affecting this sport. It's something that you have to monitor, and sometimes it makes sense to take a quarter goal underdog instead of half a goal and just hope that you end up winning the match outright. So then you can save some money on that juice or get a nice little plus sign on your odds instead of paying the big juice for that extra point or extra half to make sure you win on a draw as opposed to only winning half a bet. Anyway, that might be a little bit too in the weeds for some people listening, and you probably just want a winner for this ultimate best bet portion. So here we go. I'm the real underscore G Warner on Twitter, Instagram, Patreon. Please check out the links below in the description and check out and potentially deposit somewhere, find some new places to get some money, get some bonuses, all that sort of stuff. For my ultimate best bet on betting the pitch number 215, I have pulled out Sheffield United, a quarter goal underdog in the Premier League. In England, in La Liga, Mallorca getting a quarter of a goal. In Ligue 1 in France, I like Stade Brestois under 2.5. And then Bundesliga Super Cup, I like RB Leipzig. For my ultimate best bet on this first episode of the season, as we get going, I'm going to go. It doesn't seem like too big of a stretch to stay with my Piratas, the Pirates of Mallorca. The island nation or island club, they're on the road at Las Palmas, a newly promoted side in La Liga. I'm not a believer that this team can really win a bunch of matches. I think it's going to be a big stepping stone for a side from a lower league to go get a win at home. So I'll take a quarter of a goal on RC de Mallorca on Sunday, I believe. And that'll do it for this episode. Thanks for tuning in. We will get more of these coming up, try to do one midweek and then for the weekends as I did last year. Any feedback, thoughts, concerns, anything like that, go check out patreon.com/thereal_G Warner, though. Had a really great baseball season, especially the second half of the season has been going great. Had a big run lately, a little bit slow as of the last couple days, but can't really help grand slams in the top of the ninth, unfortunately, in Baltimore. But hopefully those stop, and hopefully soccer season gets us off to a good start like it did last year. And I got future stuff out there on pregame. Plus, we'll be doing the weekend cards or daily cards as soon as the season really gets going, which it will be tomorrow. So get in there, check it out, hit me up wherever you can find me, and I would be really happy to talk to you all as soon as possible in any form, any place, anywhere. Let's chat.